Hello, it's John Heaton, and I had to make this review. I've just come back from the cinema seeing this new movie yesterday about a world where no one remembers the Beatles, and I was expecting it to be good, but I was blown away. It far surpassed my expectations. It's just a really beautiful movie. And hats off to Richard Curtis, who wrote it. Richard Curtis of Blackadder fame, who also wrote Love Actually, and he wrote the Vincent van Gogh episode of Doctor Who. And by the way, if you haven't seen the film and you don't want spoilers, then don't watch this video, because I'm going to say a few things about what happens in the movie, although, well, if you don't want spoilers, then don't watch the movie. Himesh Patel is playing this character, Jack Malik, who is run down by a bus and wakes up to a world where no one can remember the Beatles. Just a beautiful concept. And apparently they wrote letters to Paul and Ringo, who were both supportive of the project, and they received a lovely reply from Ringo, apparently. So Richard Curtis wrote it. Ed Sheeran is in it, playing himself. And as I say, it's a great concept for a movie, and there's so many good things about it. The music business is not represented too kindly through this rather nasty manager, Deborah Hammer. And the songs featured in the movie are quite familiar. I mean, they didn't choose any obscure songs, but there's a few songs like In My Life and I Saw Her Standing There, which were not hit singles in their own right. But for the most part, they've chosen familiar ones. And there's also a great love story underhanging the whole movie, which I think will make it ensure that it passes the test of time and becomes a movie which people will remember for years to come. We have Lily James playing the female lead, the struggling manager who supported Jack Malik throughout his 10 years of so-called failure as a musician, and he really wasn't doing anything, and then suddenly he realizes, he wakes up after his accident, and if you can imagine it, no one remembers John, Paul, George or Ringo or the Beatles, and he Googles Sergeant Pepper and he gets a picture of a pepper, the vegetable, and rather amusingly other things in the movie, like there's Harry Potter, nobody remembers him, and nobody remembers Coke, they only have Pepsi. Very amusing script. Richard Curtis, I don't use the word genius lightly, but I think this script is just a piece of genius. I really do. And the stroke of genius for me, and before I get to that, is there's another amusing bit where they say, "Are you sure about this? The title, Hey Jude? I think Hey Dude sounds better," and that's hilarious. And he's torn. Jack Malik is torn between this success. He's basically sitting on this treasure trove of songs, which he passes off as his own, but then towards the end of the movie, he comes to his senses and realizes, it's a rip-off, because he didn't write any of them, and he gives credit to John, Paul, George and Ringo, even though no one's heard of them. And then this is the stroke of genius. There's some cameos where the lady actress who played the lead part in Happy Valley, I forget her name, and she plays the part of this Liverpool fan who's friends with this Russian, and they're the only other two people in the whole world who remember the Beatles. And they meet Jack Malik and say, I just want to say thank you, because I've missed these songs, and we can't sing, so someone's got to do it. And beautiful scenes in the movie, filmed in Liverpool. He goes around Strawberry Fields, he goes to Penny Lane. He's seen running around about, Lime Street Station, chasing after his girl. And but anyway, I've said it a few times. The masterstroke in this film is the appearance of John Lennon. They go to visit this old elderly gentleman who's living by the sea somewhere, and it's John Lennon, age 78. So I know it's fiction and stuff, but they've brought him back to life, and it was very moving. I was in tears for a lot of this movie. It was very emotional, and it's true. As they said in the movie, a world without the Beatles is a worse off place, and we're so one takes them for granted, and one shouldn't. And if you see this movie, I think you'll agree never to take them for granted again. And to see a 78-year-old John Lennon played by Robert Carlyle, where he's not been in the Beatles, but he's lived a good life, and he's sailed the world, and he's stayed true to his principles, and he's tried to keep the woman he loves, and he advises Jack Manick to tell, if you want a good life, it's not that complicated. All you have to do is tell the girl you love that you love her. So then the climax of the film is this concert where he puts his girlfriend Ellie on the big screen and just says to the whole crowd, this is the woman who believed in me when no one else did, and I love her. And I think they called it a romantic comedy, but it's more than that. It's just very moving. And as I say, to see the actor who played Lennon looked quite a bit like how Lennon would have looked now had he lived, and it was just a piece of genius to have him cast in the film. And I was imagining whether Paul and Ringo would enjoy the film. I think they would. I really do. I think everyone connected with the Beatles story would have thought that this is a really affectionate tribute, in the same way that maybe the Ruttles was, but there's a more serious note to this movie. It's not just a comedy. It's more than that, in my opinion. So I was really uplifted, came out of the cinema feeling very uplifted and very happy, and glad that I'd seen this movie. And I just want to thank Richard Curtis. You are a genius. Thanks for watching. See you next time.